Hello everyone. In this video, we'll discuss about subquery or nested query, right? In the previous video, you might have seen the foreign key and the table, child table, parent table, primary key, things like that, right? So those concepts are going to work here, right? So what is a subquery, right? First of all, let's understand subquery. Then we'll talk about how we can interpret primary key and foreign key. All right. So basically, what I'm trying to do here, subquery. So subquery is a query nested within another query. All right. So I am going to write one query, right? One SQL. Within that, I'm going to use one more SQL, right? So this concept is called a subquery or nested query. So basically, I'm going to write two SQLs. Right, the first one is called basically the main query or the outer query, and this is basically inner query, and this should be inside the parenthesis. As I mentioned here, subquery is called an inner query, while the query that contains the subquery is called an outer query. A subquery can be used anywhere that expression is used and must be closed in the parenthesis. So as you can see here, I have one select statement, right? And I also have one more select statement. So this is basically outer query, and this guy is inner query. All right. So let's interpret how to understand this subqueries. So here I have a select student ID name, right? Student ID name from the student. Student is our table, right? So in the student table, let's assume student ID is a primary key, primary key, right? And this table, let's assume it is a parent table. Let's assume. Now, what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to select student ID name from student, where, so I'm going to check this student ID. I'm going to check this student ID where, right? So after that, I'm going to write a subquery, right? So we have seen what is in the earlier videos, right? In the earlier videos, we have seen a query like, okay, select something in. So 26, 35, 80, 70, something like this, right? Whichever data is inside this in my numbers, the list of numbers. So, and whichever the marks are matching in my list of numbers, right? So those data I used to fetch. Similarly, what I'm trying to do, where student ID in, so here I'm trying to retrieve some data. What is that data? That data is nothing but a student ID, right? So earlier we have seen marks in. So these were my marks, right? 86, 90, 50 marks in this list of number. Similarly, student ID in, right? So here I'm going to get the list of student IDs. In this query, I'm going to return some list of student IDs. So here I'm going to return IDs using one more query, one more SQL. Select student ID from, right, from some other table, marks. This time I'm using a marks. So where you can give any condition here. You can give any condition, right? can give any condition. Here I'm saying marks greater than 60 is just nothing but simple query. Only concept is one query within another query. That is the subquery. So what I'm going to return here, based on the marks, if marks are greater than 60, and whichever students are having a marks greater than 60, those student IDs I'm returning. So once I return it, this will be a list, right? Suppose say 3 students or 4 students got a greater than 60 marks, all those student IDs will be displayed here, isn't it? So now it becomes easy. Here I am checking the student ID, whichever IDs are inside these IDs, only those ID and name will be displayed. So you can call this as a, you can interpret this as a child table. You can interpret this as a child table. There are many other concepts, different complex query we used to write, comparing primary key in a parent table versus child table foreign key. So here child table, we can interpret marks as a child table, and the student ID we can interpret as a foreign key. So this is how you can understand parent table, child table, primary key and foreign key. And you should also understand that these IDs are unique in both the tables. Unique in both the tables, right? So this is just to give an idea. In real time, there are much more complex queries people used to write. But in data science, we don't need to get into the deepest or the complex query. So we don't get into, usually we don't get into complex queries, right? So this is the idea behind this subquery. All right. So now let's execute this, run. As you can see, only 3 students have got more than 60 marks, right? And those student IDs were returned here, like let's say 9, 10, 11. Let's say 9, 10, and 11. So this is what it returns, this entire query. So here I am checking student ID, all the student ID from the student table. If those IDs are inside this, only those IDs I'm returning here. So this might have hundreds of IDs, hundreds of students, but whichever IDs are matching with this in this list, only those IDs I'm displaying, those names and IDs. So this is how you can write a subquery. Here I can say greater than 60, maybe less than 60, right? So here, yes, things are changing, isn't it? Right? So I can also say that equal to maybe 80. Not sure whether it is there or not, but let's execute. It is not there, right? So you can change this however you want based on the requirement. Let's recap. So this is basically inner query and this is the outer query. All right. The whole thing we can call it as a nested query or subquery. Right. I hope you got the idea. Yes, that's all in this video. Thank you for watching this video. Keep learning. Thank you.